Today we bring you the story of John Shippen, the first African-American to play in the U.S. Open at Shinnecock Hills in 1896. Shippen would go on to play in 6 more U.S. Opens and become the head pro of the country's first African-American golf club. His story has been largely forgotten, but now, 55 years after his death in 1968, a group of dedicated individuals are fighting to keep his legacy alive.
We've got these untold stories from more than 100 years ago that are still seeing the impact.
Understanding the historical significance of the location, the first owned and operated African-American country club, as well as the location of John Shippen.
The first American golf professional, because prior to that, only Scottish and Irish people played golf.
He was the first American, and he happened to be an African-American.
John Shippen was the son of a former slave. His father traveled around the country serving as a Presbyterian minister.
His father winds up being assigned to work on the Shinnecock Reservation.
John Shippen was first exposed to the game at the age of 13. He started to work over at the club as a caddy, making golf clubs, working with the local club professional.
He learned the game under Willie Dunn, the head pro there at Shinnecock, and he became very good at it.
He became one of the best players in the club. When the club was hosting the second U.S. Open in 1896, he and another caddy, Oscar Bunn, a Native American of Shinnecock descent, they decided that those two would represent the club and play in the 1896 U.S. Open.
John Shippen is sort of facing all of these different challenges. He's just a teenager. He's the youngest in the field. He is serving as a caddy and also as a groundskeeper. And then the third part is that he's African American.
In the early years of the U.S. Open, the field largely comprised Scottish and English professionals who were immigrants to this country and really helped golf grow from its roots in America. Those professionals, when they learned that John Shippen was going to play in the U.S. Open, along with his friend Oscar Bunn, they objected. They came to the USGA, and specifically the USGA president, Theodore Havemeyer, and said, if Shippen and Bunn are allowed to compete in the championship, we're going to refuse to play.
Theodore Havemeyer had the admirable values to be able to say to them, no, John Shippen and Oscar Bunn are playing, and if they're the only two competitors in the tournament, so be it.
Shippen shrugs off the challenges. He shrugs off the difficulty and the question of whether or not he would be allowed to play, and he has a terrific first round.
He finishes the first round shooting 78, so he's tied for second.
He would have won if he hadn't got stuck on the 13th hole. Took him 11 strokes to get out.
Otherwise, we might be here talking about John Shippen, the second U.S. Open champion.
I was taking a course in African American history, and the professor indicated that based on an article by Jerry Eisenberg of the Star-Ledger, that the town needed to recognize John Shippen and Shady Rest. So my husband and I became, I should say, addicted to finding out more about John Shippen.
They were trying to say that he was a Shinnecock Indian, and that's where the history gets distorted. I did my research, traced him back to Anacostia, Washington, D.C., where he was born, and then traced his parents back to Virginia, where they were born. And so I backed up all my research. It took me 2 years, and then they said, you're correct, Thurman. This is the first American golf professional.
Shady Rest was the first African-American country club throughout the United States that was owned by African-American individuals.
A group of 5 businessmen from the area were able to raise funds of $100,000 or more to purchase this property and make it a place that African-American people could come and be safe and just enjoy time with each other.
John Shippen became the pro here, and he stayed here. He lived upstairs. They still have a lot of his artifacts up there.
I love jazz music, and knowing that people like Ella Fitzgerald came here and performed, Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday, just kind of also sparked my interest in the location.
At one point, the town wanted to tear this down. They do own it. So a committee of individuals that were concerned started Save Shady Rest Committee. And we stayed focused on saving this valuable piece of property. Now it is on the National Registry. John Shippen died at a nursing home in Newark, New Jersey, and no one knew who he was. So he was buried out in the cemetery in Linden in just a number that they put when they don't know who the individual is. My husband went out to the cemetery to get that number, and they said, you have to walk this cemetery and find it. We don't know where it is. We did a fundraiser so that we can put an appropriate headstone.
When you look at diversity, equity, inclusion in golf, it really all starts with Mr. John Shippen, his story and his legacy.